with Richard's son. Well, he walked up. This is what happened. He walked up on Richard's son talking about Sophia. And he basically was saying, like, he wants her, but she's probably just into black guys, because Tate, who is Royce's friend from the other book, she had a fling with him. She used to be in love with Tate, but he never felt anything for her like that. And they did have one night when he was drunk. He had broke up with his girlfriend and she was drunk, so they had a whole messy fling, but it was nothing. He never really liked her like that. But just kind of goes to show you, like, even in higher ups, still racism exists. And his parents were extremely, rich and successful, but, some people just still see that. Richard finds Sophia, and he basically, now keep in mind, he came in here with a date. But he's telling Sophia, wow, you look so great. Like, oh my gosh, like, listen, I've got a penthouse. It has bay windows, and I just want to F you against those windows. And he tries to touch her, and Sophia tells him, I don't remember telling you could touch me. And he's like, come on, let's just have some fun. And she was just like not having it. So McAllister sees this going on, and he hears the stuff, and he's like kind of pissed. And so he goes and gets her, and they walk off, and he's like, you don't ever talk to him again. And she was like, you can't just tell me who I can talk to and who I can't. You don't own me, McAllister. And he told her, yes, I do. And so McAllister then takes her back to the dressing room and tells the person in there, hey, I'm giving her a tour. And they leave. And he lets her know, listen, because at this point he's boiling over. He's like, this is going to be quick. You're probably not even going to come. He was like, but I will take care of you when we get back to the house later. And she's just kind of like, what? But he was letting her know, I'm finna get you. And so he gets her. And it was extremely hot and rough and just great. And after that, he goes ahead and they're done. They straighten up and everything. They go back out, and sure enough, he takes her back to the house, and he's like, "I'm gonna make you come like I don't even know how many times tonight," and that's exactly what he does. And so then that becomes their routine. So they go to work. They flirty and stuff at work. After work, they're together. She goes to the house. They have dinner. They have sex all night. And then she leaves. She goes home. She sends her pictures. Like, it's just a whole routine. And, he was thinking, like, I hope she's not falling for me. But at the same time, like, he wanted her to fall. Like, he wanted that control over her. But he found that he didn't feel that same. He wanted her to fall because he wanted to control it, to do something to her. It was just, he loved the idea that, she, found him so attractive and wanted him. And so one of their nights, actually was one of their mornings, she was dressed in his shirt, one of his white collar shirts. She was dressed in it. They were sitting there, they were having breakfast, and they were getting ready to leave, and they started talking about basically having a quickie in the shower. And McAllister said something to her about the vibrator, bringing the vibrator, that it was waterproof. And Royce walks in. And so Royce is like, well, geez, And so McAllister's like, I thought I taught you manners. You're supposed to call or text before you pop up at someone's house. And so Royce is like, I thought this was always supposed to be my home. And so Royce storms off, and McAllister goes after him. And Sophia, like, gets dressed really quickly. And when McAllister comes back in, he asks Sophia, were you a part of the plan? And she's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, Royce just told me that his whole purpose for inviting you that day to play Skeet was to get someone like you on my radar so that I would stop being so obsessed with Maris. And Sophia looks hurt because she's like, no, there's no plan that I knew of about that. And she's like, are you even over her? And he's like, how can you even ask me that? Like, the way I feel about you. But he doesn't admit that he loves her. So Sophia's just like, listen, I think I'm falling in love with you. And he tells her, I forbid it. He's like, I'm not good for you. Because in his brain, he thinks he's cursed. And he said this to her. I think I'm cursed. Everything, something bad always happens to the people that I love. And he's like, I can give you what what we have right now. He's like, there's no one else, He was like, but that's all I can give you. And so Sophia's like, okay, that'll do for now. So a few days later, Sophia and McAllister go on his yacht, which he bought right before he gave Royce the seat on the board. But he's never used it. So brand new boat. And Sophia's not good with boats at all. And so soon as she gets on there, she starts feeling wheezy because it's super choppy out there. And it wasn't supposed to be that way, but, the weather is the weather. McAllister can't control the weather. And so they're trying to get her something to kind of settle her stomach, like some ginger tea, maybe some ginger ale. And so the captain's like, I got some Dramamine, if that'll help. And she's like, okay. Before they get it to her, she winds up throwing up. And while she's waiting for them to get her something, the mast swings because the wind's blowing so bad. And it hits her in the shoulder and it pushes her over, knocks her out and right into the ocean. And so McAllister, of course, jumps in to save her. And the captain, if he gets to her and she's not breathing. Like, she's not breathing at all. And so he's panicking. So the captain helps him, like, pull her back over. He swims and gets her and pulls her back. And they get her on, and he's performing CPR, and it's not working. And he keeps going, and he's pushing harder. And they're like, just keep, even if you break something, keep going. Like, we're trying to, it's better for her to have a broken, rib and breathing than to not breathe at all. So he keeps going, and finally she starts to breathe. And he's like, oh my gosh. And he's like, where does it hurt? And she's like, it just hurts all over. So they've already called the ambulance, so they're waiting to take her to the Cove Hospital. So he rides in there with her and gets her to the room. And I guess Vance knows the captain. And so the captain had called Vance to let him know what happened. So Vance came to the hospital to check on him and to also give him some clothes. And he really hadn't been seeing Vance because, remember, Vance moved out. And they've never really had a conversation about anything. So it was kind of weird. So Vance is kind of looking at his dad like, okay, why are you looking so upset? Like, it's just your assistant. Like, he just didn't comprehend what was going on with him. And so McAllister actually hugs Vance to thank him, for coming and for bringing the clothes. And Vance is kind of startled, like, what the hell? Like, what are you doing? Because his kids aren't used to him hugging. He doesn't do it. And so he realizes, like, dang, that's so sad. Like, my kids aren't even used to me hugging them. And he just really sees, like, dang, I really messed up. Like, I've made some pretty bad decisions. I didn't do like I needed to. So he goes to see Sophia and in the back, and she's just kind of like, she's happy to see him, and he's terrified because he feels like it's his fault. He put her there. And she's like, I'm okay. She's like, you saved my life. He's like, but I'm the one that put it in danger. And they do this whole back and forth. And she's like, stop. You're not cursed. Everything's okay. I'm thankful that you were there. You saved my life. Can we just leave it at that, please? And so he's finally like, okay. So he wanted her to come back to his house and he was going to take care of her. But she's like, I don't think that's going to look good. Because you got to think, at this point, she very much is in love with this man, but she still does not want to ruin his image by any means. But I mean, hell, they've already seen him in the in the paramedics, seen him in the ambulance, they've seen him at the hospital. So I mean, come on, people are seeing you together. So, but she's still she's trying to protect his image. So she says, don't worry about it. My aunt is going to come up because her parents are out of town on an anniversary trip in Fiji. So she's like, my aunt's going to come up and she's going to take care of me. So I'm going to be okay. So while she's recuperating, she gets the proofs of the book from James Du Bois. She knows one of his assistants. And it doesn't say anything in there about Damon being her dad. And she is pissed. And so she calls McAllister and she accuses him. She's like, you only cared about making sure that you were okay, and you didn't even care about what it was that I had been working on for the past 5 months. And so he was just like, I'm sorry. He's like, there's another way to do this. And she's like, no, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And she completely shut down because she was done. So the next day, Vance, McAllister, Royce, and Maris, they're all going to do this family portrait. And Sophia's friend Penelope is the one who's going to do it. And she's so nervous, because it's the Hales. So she's like super nervous. But they get the picture out. And then Royce lets McAllister know that Maris is 9 weeks pregnant. And he was kind of nervous to tell his dad because he didn't know how his dad was going to react. But his dad was super happy for him. And he was like, I'm so happy. He was like, you guys are going to move back here now. And he's like, I don't know if that's a good idea. He was like, this home was made for children to be brought up in. He was like, I will sign the house over to you. And you can always put me out if I do something. It'll be yours. And he apologizes to him. He's like, I'm sorry. He's like, I'm sorry how I was as a father. He was like, and I'm sorry how I went after Maris. I was wrong for that, and I do apologize, And so Roy sees and knows that there's something very different with his dad. And he's like, are you in love with her? And he's like, with who? He's like, with Sophia. And he's like, he never answers the question, and he never denies it either. And so Royce is like, I think it's her. He's like, because the first couple months you were out, it's not like you were different, but ever since she's become a part of your life, you're very different. So clearly he is in love with this woman. And so then Sophia gets a call by someone that's in Damon Lynch's camp. He's having a party and a fundraiser, and they asked her to come along. And so she's like, good, yeah, I'm coming, because she's thinking, she's trying to expose him. She's like, this is going to get out. I am going to expose this man. And so she gets there, McAllister sees her, and of course, he's all about making deals. So he's like, all right, if I can get Damon to admit to all these people here that he's your father, you'll leave here with me tonight. And then she said, well, what happens if I win? He said, then you can have whatever you want. And she's like, all right, deal. So while Vance is up, because Vance was like helping with the campaign as well. So Vance is on the mic, and then all of a sudden it breaks in, and you start hearing a conversation in the back. McAllister asks Damon, so is she your daughter? And Damon goes, well, I don't know. I mean, she could be. I'm not sure. And so McAllister asks him again, is she your daughter? And he was like, you should be proud if she is your daughter. And so Damon's like, you don't understand. Like, if Kristen finds out, she's going to leave me. So she's Damon's wife. And so then someone comes running back to where they are, and they're like, cut the mic, you're